Welcome everyone. Welcome to the American Labor Museum Botto House National Landmark. Thank you so much for coming. My name is Angelica Santamaro and I'm the director of the museum. And this is Mike Goodman, our president, who is also the president emeritus of the Office of Professional Employees International Union. I know that I have Joe LaFalce, who is our volunteer, who's videotaping. If you have a problem with being videotaped, please let us know. And Evelyn Hershey, who is our education director. Come on over, Evelyn, if you can. So we're going to try to make this opening as short as possible because I know that it's very hot out here. Ordinarily, we would have this under the Great Arbor, but we have a very large group and I didn't know how comfortable you were with being squeezed in. So I thought for social distancing purposes, we meet on the side of the house instead of back there. So I hope that's okay with you. I just want to tell you that the museum has quite a few events throughout the course of the year, and Evelyn is going to be telling you about them in a few minutes. But this one in particular has a very, very special place in my heart because those people who were in attendance, whether you received an engraved brick as a gift or if you purchased it yourself, I know that you have a sense of connection to the museum because now you own a piece of a very special landmark, the American Labor Museum Botto House National Landmark. So you may be here for the very first time, but I hope it's not the last, and I hope you come and visit us and check up on your brick. And I just have a really brief, funny story to tell. We've been doing this for 24 years, and for 24 years, we never had a problem with our bricks. But this year, my dearest friend passed away. Now, she and I constantly teased one another. We were always making one another laugh and pulling pranks on one another. And she happened to pull one on me post-mortem. We had a delivery of bricks that were too large. So when the bricklayers came and took out the old bricks and tried to put in the new, they said, we can't do it. I said, well, what's the matter? He goes, look, it's supposed to be 8 by 4. It's 8 1/4 by 4 1/4. I said, that's Joni. That's Joni. So as a result of that, those of you who did order bricks, and if you see them along the front there, and if there is a name that is of a relative or a friend or whomever you ordered the brick for, please take the brick that's there because it belongs to you right now. Another thing about my girlfriend Joni, she was a really smart businesswoman. And she now created an opportunity for us because prior to the gathering here, we had a meeting of the Board of Trustees. Mike Goodwin, who purchased a brick for his friend, said, wow, I get to take a brick and give it to my friend, an actual brick? This is great. Then he said, why don't we just tell people when they're ordering a brick, they could order 2 instead of 1. So now she's giving us an opportunity to bring more money into the museum. So we're going to give people that opportunity in our next year. So thanks for the idea, and thanks, Joni. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce again Evelyn Hershey, our education director, who's going to fill you in on what we have done, what we have accomplished throughout the course of this wild year. Evelyn.
Well, welcome everyone. I'm very happy to meet all of you. Some familiar faces and some new faces. But it's wonderful to have you all at this very important historic house and at this museum. So I'd like to take a few minutes very quickly, I hope you can all hear me, to let you know what we do here at the American Labor Museum, especially this year, which has been a very challenging year. So the American Labor Museum's mission statement directs its educational programs. The museum's mission, you may already know, but if you do not, is to advance public understanding of the history of work, workers, and the labor movement throughout the world, with special attention to the ethnicity and immigrant experience of American workers. Through this year, a common question that we fielded from visitors and participants in educational programs was, are you open? Are you open? According to the American Alliance of Museums' most recent museum magazine, 1 out of 5 people surveyed expressed strong concern that their community's museums might never reopen or would severely cut back on educational services as a result of the pandemic. With the support of the museum's members, many of you here, trustees, volunteers, the Atran Foundation, the federal government and Small Business Administration, the New Jersey Council for the Humanities, the New Jersey Historical Commission, the Passaic County Cultural and Heritage Council, the Pupin Foundation, and others whom I will highlight later, we here at the museum responded to the question, are you open, by answering, yes, we are open and we never closed. At the start of the pandemic and the lockdown, tours and educational programming became virtual. On October 7th, 2020, the museum opened to on-site visitors. Virtual group tours and educational programming continued, and they remain an important new component of the museum's educational services. We are extremely thankful to all who supported the museum through the past challenging year. Through the year, the museum offered a wide range of educational opportunities for all ages. Number 1, a menu of 10 video conferencing classes, also known as distance learning classes, for grades 4 through 12, plus 8 visual and performing arts lessons for grades 3 through 5 are offered Monday through Friday. On-site group tours successfully went virtual by use of an iPad, laptop computer, and the museum's new Zoom account. A local summer camp, elementary school, and William Patterson University undergraduate classes toured the museum virtually. Several group tours, a New York City school, a couple of out-of-state senior groups visited for the first time, and as a result of the new availability of virtual tours. As a result of a grant from the Pupin Foundation, 1 in-person and 23 virtual Saturday labor art classes were presented free of charge through the school year. During each class, a labor and/or immigrant studies lesson takes place and is followed by a visual or performing arts project. The classes are designed to introduce students to a topic that is new to many of them, labor studies and immigrant studies, and they are for students grades 3 through 5. You are welcome to visit the museum's YouTube channel, look for Labor Museum, to view the lessons. In October 2020, the museum was awarded a Dig In Community Garden grant funded by the Passaic County Board of County Commissioners. It was designed to upgrade and maintain the museum's immigrant garden on the other side of the house. This summer and through the early fall, student volunteers are invited to assist in tending the garden. Students also learn about immigrant working families' foodways and consider ways to alleviate food insecurity among working families in the community. The Museum Speakers Bureau provided labor and immigrant studies presentations to adults and senior groups and for union meetings. The Speakers Bureau went virtual too, and there was an increase in the number of talks presented to libraries, adult and senior groups. Presentation topics included slavery and the Underground Railroad, the 1913 Patterson Silk Strike, Women at Work, and Unions and the Civil Rights Movement. The museum welcomes high school and college-level student interns. During the spring 2021 semester, 3 William Patterson University undergraduates and 1 Rutgers Public History Program student joined us. As museum interns, they conducted research, collected photographs, and conducted interviews. Nick Lepre created a PowerPoint presentation about child labor so that the museum may further assist National History Day students. Kara Kennedy developed a brochure that provides photos and details about the historic sites visited on the museum's annual Immigrant and Labor Bus Tour. Veronica Tirana interviewed Latinx workers for the museum's upcoming exhibit, What Latinx Workers Bring to America. And Emily Gioberti created a PowerPoint presentation and lesson for children that compared the experiences of workers during the 1918 and the 2020-2021 pandemics. The museum is currently working with 2 summer interns, one from Rutgers and the other from Wayne Valley High School, on 2 new projects. 9 museums in a suitcase portable exhibits are regularly available for loan to schools, libraries, unions, and other organizations. Though they could not be loaned out during the pandemic, their contents were featured in the Speakers Bureau talks where appropriate. The suitcases may now be borrowed. They include exhibits about the 1913 Patterson Silk Strike, child labor in America, workers' struggles which led to strikes, and other labor and immigrant studies topics. The Museums in a Suitcase exhibits are available for 3-week loan periods as a benefit of museum membership. So it's a good reason to become a museum member if you are not one. During the course of 1 year, they are free to those who are members at the benefactor level for a nominal $5 fee at a nominal fee of $5. In addition, a larger traveling exhibit entitled the Centennial Commemoration of the 1913 Patterson Silk Strike exhibit, which consists of 36 framed images about people, places, and events of this historic labor struggle, is available. Beginning in January 2021, the museum began hosting a virtual program called Peep Antonellis Wednesdays with Workers. Each Wednesday, a different union worker discusses their experience on the job, from apprentices to experienced craftspeople to union leaders and retirees. These programs are designed to inform and to prepare future workers for the American workplaces of the next decade. The program was made possible by the UAW Region 9 Housing Corporations in memory of United Auto Workers official and museum trustee Antonellis. Episodes of the program may be viewed on the museum's YouTube channel and Facebook page. Please consider subscribing to our YouTube channel. You'll find us under Labor Music. The museum's virtual Humanities Festival Month educational program on October 17, 2020 featured a lecture and Q&A with Rutgers University history professor Jonathan Laurie, who discussed his research on the Supreme Court's treatment of indigenous people. On February 27, 2021, the museum invited the general public to join a Zoom program which featured a screening of the film American Made, Union Built, followed by a conversation with its creators. Mark Torres, author of Long Island Migrant Labor Camps, Dust for Blood, joined the museum and the general public during the museum's virtual Workers' Memorial Day observance on April 28, 2021, to discuss his book. During the month of May, which is recognized as Labor History Month, the museum provided 75 free movie tickets on a first-come, first-served basis to view the 2019 documentary film Work Songs. On May 15th, a public virtual conversation and Q&A with filmmaker Mark Street took place. The video of this program, the May 15th program, is available on the museum's YouTube channel. This program was made possible in part by a grant administered by the Passaic County Cultural and Heritage Council from funds granted by the New Jersey State Council on the Arts. Beginning in May, and in honor of Labor History Month, the museum's website provides a link to the film Bev Grant Photography, 1968 to 1971, by Bev Grant. Bev Grant is a labor and social activist, feminist singer, songwriter, photographer, and Joe Hill Award winner from the Labor Heritage Foundation. She is the cultural director of the UALE Summer School for Union Women. Bev Grant's exhibit of original photography, entitled The Movements of the 60s Through the Eyes of a Revolutionary Working-Class Feminist Photographer, Filmmaker, Musician, is scheduled to open at the museum on May 1st, 2022. As an educational service to our brothers and sisters in the labor movement, the museum offers very reasonable facility rental for union meetings, during which attendees may tour the museum. The museum's collection of artifacts and photographs related to workers, immigrants, and the labor movement is safely stored, displayed, and made available to researchers upon request. The collection continues to grow thanks to the generous donation of many individuals and organizations. You are invited to come inside to take a look at the display cases that are included on the second floor in the exhibit Union Made, Fashioning America in the 20th Century, where you will see on display a sampling of labor union memorabilia and workplace artifacts that have been donated to the museum's collection through the years. The museum's free lending library collection continues to grow as well. The museum library is regularly available to and used by researchers of all ages. It contains books, audio and video cassettes still, CDs and DVDs that may be borrowed free of charge. The museum store, which carries books, posters, and other educational items, is open for browsing and shopping, and browsing and shopping in the store can take place online through the museum's website, which is www.labormuseum.net. And there is additional information on the museum's website about the museum's educational programs and a resource page that provides curricula for teachers, role-playing cards for the classroom, and other information for educators. In addition, there is a sign-up for our e-newsletter on our web page, and the e-newsletter goes out monthly to anyone who signs up for it there. And I forgot to put on my
No, we can bring it up.
Excuse me. To close, the museum extends a warm thank you to its dedicated volunteers who assist in developing and promoting and presenting the education programs of the museum. And they are Judith Hughes-Gray, Art Corbino, Joe LaFalce, who's here today, Bob Mitchell, Brian Sandelins, and Glory Strodecki, and my coworker Robert Ledley, who is our office manager, but also gives tours here too. So in closing, the support of the museum's members makes the education program happen every day here at the museum, and that support is so greatly appreciated. In the years to come, the goal is to continue expanding the museum's education program program and to encourage the general public to make full use of the museum's educational opportunities. So we invite you, if you are not yet a member, to join the family of museum members by becoming a member today. And you may do so. We have membership forms on our brochure.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah, so we've been pretty busy, especially because we're the only museum that is open in this area. So I thank Evelyn, who has been handling so many of the educational programs, and I appreciate all that she does. So now we're on to the actual silk war ceremony. And I know many of you got here in time to get to see your brick already. You got to take photographs, and I'm very, very happy that you did. The sun will shift. Maybe there won't be so much of a shadow on your brick by the time you get back to it later. But at this time, I am going to be handing out certificates to you in honor of your loved ones or your heroes or whomever, or yourself, if you've purchased a brick or received a brick as a gift for yourself. Is there anyone here from the Violin family? We have Timothy E. Violin and George J. Violin. How about Adalgiso and Catarina Valle? Paulina Gottlieb Groger. Ronald Bato. Kathleen Karen, anyone here to represent Kathleen? I know that Josephine and your son are here. This is for David Bensman.
David Benson?
Yes. And I would appreciate it if you can just, what we would like to do is, and it's entirely up to you, no pressure, but if you could just share a little something about who this person is, who is very dear to me, who is my professor down at Rutgers University, and we co-taught a course together, and he was very, very close, very dear to my heart. And this is David's son. Maybe you'd like to just share a little something about your dad.
Thanks so much. Hello. Simply
Jose, right? Jose?
Joseph.
Joseph.
That's his brother. Dad was a people person. He taught at Rutgers for 42 years, history and labor studies. And above all, he believed in people's potential and making sure their lives reach their full potential. So this is a very meaningful honor for my family and I. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Joseph. And I know this person is here. I went to high school with this gentleman, and he now lives in Memphis, Tennessee. And he came in to honor his mom, Stella Dutch. Wayne.
Thank you. My sister's here, my wife, my sister-in-law, my daughter. We're very happy to do this. My mother was a member of the ILGWU, the International Ladies Garment Workers Union. And I was instructed to learn that very carefully, as I was one of the few first words I pronounced, I'm sure. She was a shop steward, a major supporter of the union. My sister would confirm this. Many a day we'd come home and there'd be a bunch of people in the kitchen having coffee and things, etc., and plotting strategies on how to improve things at work, etc. So I know she's smiling someplace right now. I guess I better say upstairs. I'll have a nightmare tonight. Thank you, and what a wonderful program in this museum.
Thank you so much. Is anyone here in honor of Catherine Luger? Catherine Luger? Jose Larios is, he was the superintendent of my building where I live, and I just bought a brick because I loved him so much, so I just want to honor Jose. Love you, guy. Chris Pascucci. Julius Margolin. We have a May Day festival. We call it the Julius Margolin May Day Festival because he would come every year and he would perform for us. He was a great, great labor leader. John Altgeld. Max Pine, and also John Apkel, right? And now we have Keith Danish. How about Ken Brook? No? Okay. Wasn't sure how many.
Okay, it's too hot for a full speech, but let me say, for Max Pine, it was so hard to squeeze his accomplishments onto a brick. He was in this country, he came from Russia. In fewer than 40 years, he did so much for labor and for the Jewish community here and abroad. In the garment industry, he was an organizer. He became known as the knee pants liberator for leading a strike in that local. And he was also known as the East Side Moses for leading his people out of worker slavery. He was a founder of the Jewish Forward. He was a humanitarian who went to Russia after the First World War in very dangerous times to get food and assistance to the starving Jewish people over there. And for that, he was on the, of course, on the blank list of the U.S. government forevermore. He was a founder of Histadrut, a Palestinian and now Israeli Labor Federation, a founder of the Joint Distribution Committee, a great humanitarian organization. And this all took place in less than 40 years. He died in Maywood, New Jersey in 1928. So if you've heard the Hebrew phrase, tikkun olam, to repair the world, well, he did his best to do that in less than 40 years. And P.S., he was my wife's great uncle. Now, John Altgeld was a political profile in courage, a German immigrant, was a self-made American, became governor of Illinois in the 1890s. But before that, you may have heard about the Haymarket bombing in 1886, at the time of the fight for the 8-hour day, that very radical and subversive idea, an 8-hour day. And there was a bombing in Haymarket Square, Chicago. Several police were killed, a lot of people were killed and wounded. 4 of the radical anarchists who were advocating for political rights in that city were charged with the bombing. 4 of them went to the gallows, although there was no way to tie them to what happened, just their radical words. So years later, when Altgeld became governor, he reviewed every page of the trial transcript and determined that, as an understatement, it was an unfair trial, to say the least, and it was determined to pardon the ones who were still in jail, and he knew this would be political suicide for him, and he did carry out the pardon. He was defeated for re-election, and let me just tell you what the conventional wisdom at the time, as expressed by the New York Times, said it is Altgeld's un-Americanism which unfits him for the office which he holds, or even for citizenship. This was a self-made American with the proudest tradition of immigrants. So I would say he was not unfit, but he rather was a profile of courage for his time, at all time.
Thank you so much. Is anyone here from Ken Brook?
Yes.
No. Oh, well, actually, Dr. Moore can. Okay, Dr. Moore.
It's an honor for me to accept this on behalf of Ken Brook, who's not here today. Ken is one of the earliest supporters of ALT Local 1904 at Montclair. And after his initial support, for many years, was a negotiator of our local contract and of our statewide contract as well. So Ken, we definitely deserve this honor today. Thank you.
Thank you. I know we have representatives here from Plumbers Local 24. One happens to be our volunteer, Mike Vogt. Now, I have to tell you, our bathroom's leaking again.
No.
And of course, your president, Jim McManus. I don't know where you are, but I know that you're here. Jim, I don't know who's going to be accepting this, but I have Chris Hamler's certificate.
What do you guys like?
And I knew Chris, and it was truly a very
thank you all for coming on this little warm afternoon. Angelica and her staff does a wonderful job here promoting the museum, and it's truly an honor to be here speaking on Chris's behalf. I'm the business manager for Plumbers Local. Chris was our apprentice coordinator. Mike was our instructor. And Angelica used to say, "Hey Jim, I got a plumbing problem. Can you help?" And anybody that's seen tools in my hands probably wasn't the right guy to help. So I would say to Chris, "Hey Chris, can you get over and help Angelica out?" And he would say, "Hey Mike, could you get over there and do a little work?" So Michael is actually the guy that did all the work, but Chris was the guy that put things together. And he was always a true union person. And his parents here, Bonnie and Chris, and his son, daughter, your dad was a great guy, great union person. And just a great person to be around. I mean, he was the life of the party, right? And if there wasn't a party, he was the guy to start the party. So he was deeply missed, and my condolences to the whole Hamilton. Thank you.
And we do have an extra brick to take. James Gallo Sr.
This is for my dad. My aunt took care of this for us. This is his youngest granddaughter. I mean, he was a great guy. I just miss him so much.
And of course, who's next? You did it again. Joni Squio Stas, my good buddy, and sister Annette Dutch. Marie, anybody want to say a few words about Joni? Well, at the age of 34, my best friend came to me and said, "Angel, I've got MS." And I thought, oh dear God in heaven, what are we going to do? Let me tell you something. He was the pillar of strength for 36 years and never, ever, ever complained about her body slowly deteriorating. And she knew laughter was the best medicine, and let me tell you something, there wasn't a time that we were together that we didn't have good belly laughs. And I miss those belly laughs, because I can't have them with anyone else like I had with my Joni. And Joni, I'm happy that you're here. I could see your name every day that I come in, and your spirit is here like everyone else's, even Mr. Gallo and Chris. I mean, all of these people whose names are here, they live on forever at the Labor Museum, trust me. Robert Isaacson.
Bob is the president of a company that I'm affiliated with now, selling union benefits. Robert J. Isaacson. He's delighted to receive this. He's very thrilled. Thank you very much.
And the real brick.
And the real prince.
Yeah. Peter Jemis. Robert Rabori. Robert Hatemark. Frank James. The Newark Teachers Union. George Tedeschi. Sal Costanza. Arnold Karatkin. Now I have certificates for you from last year, so make sure I get them to you. And Arnie's always involved with the museum, giving us good tips and very generous. So, Arnie.
No embarrassment. This is what we do. I will keep this quick.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. I just brought with me my two children, and unfortunately, because of the heat, my grandchildren, the three of them, the youngest being 5 months, is unable to attend, but I'm looking forward to them to being future activists.
All right, I'll start this off. So my sister and I, and of course our respective families, decided to honor our father, father-in-law, and yes, even the grandfather, Arnold Karatkin, by dedicating this brick in his name for his continuous contributions to the labor movements and his continued efforts in the ongoing struggle for social and economic justice. He has worked on these efforts for over 4 decades and closing in on 5. One might say that in itself is an accomplishment, but if you asked him, he would gladly send you a laundry list of his contributions dating back from the 70s to present day. But for the sake of everyone's time in this heat, my sister has some cliff notes of that list.
Those accomplishments include being a founder and editor of a newsletter called The Wrap, which was a catalyst for the formation of the National Vista Alliance.
A union for Vista volunteers,
Yeah.
Domestic Peace Corps.
Yeah. He is also working as a co-director of COPE for his local union at Montclair State. He, the connection with Montclair State has done a tremendous amount of work, including advocating for fellow adjuncts, serving as a officer reviewing grievances, and advocating for many adjuncts who, have over the years been more and more disempowered and, treated less and less fairly by the university systems. He's created a listserv linking 9/11 survivors and their families, advocating for them and providing useful information. It's a project that continues to this day. It's been going on for well over a decade at this point. And most recently, he's also been a docent at the Montclair Art Museum.
Let me just add one thing. My daughter mentioned when I was a Vista volunteer, I put out this publication called The Wrap, which was an acronym called the Radical Alliance Against Poverty. And I'm very proud to say that the people who put out microfilm, it used to be Honeywell, it's now called ProQuest, have digitized it, and there was a contract and there was a provision for royalties, and I asked them to contribute whatever royalties there may be in perpetuity to the Labor Museum.
Thank you very, very
honor what the museum does. So thank you very much.
W. Larenquent, Passaic County Education Associations, Painters, Local 711, District 1199J, Robert Cook, IATSE Local 21, Tracy Gross, Eda Ferrante, and I think that's it. Is there anyone who is here and did not receive a certificate for your engraved brick? Well, once again, I thank you all for coming, and please don't be a stranger. We have some light refreshments and beverages in the back, and we will be giving tours inside, and please join us and try to stay cool. Thank you once again, everyone.